All right, everybody. I'd like to just welcome you all first. I'm going to start crying now, so it's over. Anyway, my name is Mick Boyd, by the way, for all those that don't know me. I'd just like to start off this conversation with a whole lot of I love you. And I love all of you. And I'm speaking for Billy, and not for me. And I'm speaking for the heart of the man that we're all here to say I love you too. So I love you. After that, I'd have to go down the list of everybody that you could read yourself. And you can do that yourself. And I'd like to say thank you to all those people that we've listed and that we love as much as we love all of you. And at this point, I'd like to introduce us to a video, a little slideshow of Billy's life. And it's going to take us about 5 to 7 minutes. So if you'd just like to sit back and enjoy yourselves and hug each other. And if there's a woman by you, you might want to rub her shoulders, because that's what Billy would be doing.
Our parents were Ed and Bev Triplett from Kalispell, Montana. My dad was a tank driver in World War II. My mom became a registered nurse. They were married in 1946. The first child was my older sister Beth, born in 1947. I came along in 1951. My brother Tom was born in 1952. And Billy came along in 1957. And last but not least came our youngest sister Danielle in 1965. Growing up as kids, we had a great family life, lots of fun, lots of laughter. We just enjoyed each other, fought, typical things that families do. But we had a lot of fun too. This was a carnival that we put together for our neighbors. Billy was master of ceremony. Here he's got a brand new bike and we're all helping him enjoy it with some friends of ours from Great Falls. This is Billy on the right with Danielle and Tom. A family camping trip. The adults leave and Billy grabs a hold of the movie camera and they produce their own movies. This one's called Death at the Lake. Now they find marshmallows in a garbage can. Oh, yum. Maybe not. 1 bad marshmallow, 2 bad marshmallows, 3 bad marshmallows, 4 bad marshmallows, 5, 6. Uh-oh, what's this? Oh my goodness. It's a Tonka truck. Time moved on. We all got older. We all went our ways. I moved to Portland. My sister Beth followed. Then my brother Tom. Then Billy and Danny all came to Portland. Bill had been injured in an accident, work accident, crushed his hand, and he went and got training as a sound engineer. Then he came to Portland, and the rest was music history. But we got to spend a lot of time together, and I got to listen to his music and what he was doing and meet people that I probably never would have met before. And it was a wonderful time. He traveled the world, and we really didn't see much of him, sometimes for a year or more. And then back in town he'd come for Christmas or for my sister's wedding, and it was like there was no break in between. This was at my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. We all came home, and it was a lovely time. The 3 brothers, Steve, Bill, and Tom. Then nieces and nephews came, and great nieces and great nephews, but we always loved the time we could spend as a family. We had lots of fun and great times together, and he always made us laugh. And we did the same to him. They were joyful times. to be together, and we will miss him greatly.
I'd like to bring up that we were going to have a prayer here, but our pastor never showed up. So I'm going to offer a prayer right now. And my prayer is that we all stand behind each other and share our love and support when we need it, not when it's too late. So at this time, I'd like to offer the microphone to Tony DiNicoli to say a couple words for us.
Wow, leave it to Billy to bring us all together tonight. You know, on the drive in to town today, I came in with a real heavy heart. But seeing you all here and the love that you all been feeling for each other and for Billy, obviously, because he has so much love for all of us. He has such a huge heart. Too bad it wasn't big enough for his body, but man, he shared it with us. Maybe that's why there wasn't enough for his body, because he gave it all to us. You know, 30-something years ago, I had this club called La Bamba, and this bunch of a bunch of troublemakers walked in one day, which included 3 Billies. You know, Billy Triplett, Billy Rancher, and Billy Flaxel, you know. And history has spoke what they did for us, brought the music scene to Portland that we all love and cherish. But the one thing with Triplett that I recognized and noticed that he was such an artist, that he not only made the sound, the speakers sound good, but he brought the passion out of the music and delivered it to us like very few do. With all respect to all of the sound men, he definitely knew how to bring the passion out. And I've always respected him for that, for one. And I still remember his ability to deliver his jokes with such an accurate punchline. And he had so many of them, man. That guy just bada bing, bada boom, and he's delivering joke after joke. And he was so good at it, better than a lot of other stand-up comedians ever were. There's so many things to remember this great, gentle giant, besides, you know, the pictures, the sound, but the moments we all shared with him. I thankfully shared a long time with him. He worked with me in many different situations, and I'm very grateful for that, to have met this person and touched my heart and my life. Thank you. You know, I want to introduce Billy's brother, Steve. Okay, thank you all. And I do want to thank Mick for putting this together. Well deserved, Nick. Well deserved. Obviously, him and Billy were like brothers. I remember the little young 16-year-old coming into the clubs. And I guess I also should thank him for putting together the Key Largo reunion, huh? I thank you all, man. It was nice seeing you all. Thank you. Steve?
Thanks. Well, the first thing on my little list of notes here to talk about was to say the same thing. Thanks to Mick. He took this on. When I first talked with him, and talked with my sister Danielle,
he just said, don't worry about anything, we're going to take care of it. And man, did he ever come through. I also wanted to thank David Jester. He's the guy that put this together, the video. I sat with him for hours and he was very patient with me, and we went through it and made it all happen. And he put the whole thing together, and I just want to say thank you, David. I also wanted to thank all the volunteers. This didn't happen with just 2 people. Everybody that had a hand in making this happen. Everybody that volunteered printing and all of this that made this happen tonight. I just want to say that our family is very, very grateful. And the love that I've seen tonight from all of you is been wonderful, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to talk a little bit, just a few things, a few stories. They're my stories that I always told about Billy. Our family they were storytellers on both sides, and whenever families came over, or my mom's side, my dad's side, we always told stories, and it was just like a family history. And these were the stories I told about Billy. He didn't like them all. I can tell you that. Some he didn't like at all, but they're the stories that I would always have to tell. Somebody'd say, tell that one story. So I'll start with the first one. The first time I met Billy, I was 5 years old. I got up one morning, my mom was at the stove making breakfast, and I walked up to her and I looked up and I patted her on the stomach and I said, Mom, you're getting fat. And she said, no, I'm not getting fat, I'm pregnant, and we're going to have a little brother or a little sister coming pretty soon. And I was so excited, and I hoped that it would be a boy, and sure enough, it was. When he was born, my dad picked us up, and we went to the hospital. And in those days, you could not go into the hospital room. You couldn't even go into the lobby. They didn't allow it. So we stood out on the street. My mom opened up her window on the 3rd floor of the hospital, and we talked to her from there. And after a while, we were chatting back and forth, asking how she was, and she asked how we were, and I said, and finally I got so frustrated, I said, Mom, hold the baby out the window so we can see him. And she said, no. But I know Billy wouldn't have cared. About a few years later, we were on a family vacation going to Yellowstone Park, packed in the car. My dad was driving, Mom in the front seat. I had shotgun. We had to share that as we went down the road, but I was lucky enough to be in that position. My brother Tom, my sister Beth, Billy was 3 years old, my grandmother all slammed into the back seat. We're going down the road. There's a car ahead of us. A skunk runs out in the road. The car hits it, kills it. It rolls underneath that car, and then immediately we sweep over the dead skunk. And within a minute, this car filled with this most pungent, strong odor of skunk. I mean, it just made your eyes tear. And all of a sudden, Billy's in the back seat, and he screams out, Mom, something's wrong with my nose. A few years later, he's 5 years old. I'm babysitting. I'm about 11. My dad was working as a meat cutter. They bought a store. My mom was running that while he worked during the day. I was babysitting, and before she left the house, she said, make sure those boys clean up their room, my brother Tom and Billy. And so I had to help them do that. They had shared a room, and we were cleaning it. And he was climbing in the closet, pulling out stuff. He pulled out this little yachting cap. It was the kind of little cap that the skipper wore on Gilligan's Island, only he had had it when he was about 3 years old. And he pulled it out, and I said, Billy, I think that hat's too small for you. Oh, no, I'm going to put it on. So he tried, and he was pulling it down. Finally, it popped on his head, and it was like a steel band. He got it, I mean, it was so small, he got it on, and then he couldn't get it off. And it was just pressing on his head, and he starts to kick and to scream and to run around the house, and I'm following him around as he's screaming and rolling around the floor. I said, Billy, let me help you, I can get it off. He ran into the bathroom and locked the door. And it was like two grown men in there fighting for their lives. And finally he opened up the door and we finally got it off. And then he had this red band that he had to live with for about a week afterwards. That was one of the stories he didn't like me to tell. The last story was, he was in high school, a senior. I'm at college. I come home and I ask him how things are going. He said, oh yeah, it was kind of interesting the other night. I went out with some friends, and then I stopped at this little taco place, late night taco place. Had a couple of tacos. He came home, family was asleep. He went to bed. About an hour later, there's a knock on the door. My dad goes to answer it. It's the police, and they want to see Billy Triplett. And so they have to go wake Billy up. He comes up, and he was fingered for stealing a gumball machine from the taco place. And I can understand why. If the last person you saw before the gumball machine was discovered missing was Billy, you might think it was him. But it wasn't. He talked his way out of it. But his version of the story to me was, yeah, I'm in my bed, all of a sudden bright lights are all around the house. The sheriff's out with the megaphone saying, Billy Triplett, come out with your, throw out the gumball machine and come out with your hands up. And Billy strolls up, walks out, opens up the front door, lights shining in his eyes, and he goes like this. What seems to be the problem, officer? Well, they were my favorite stories, and I love to tell them. When I talked with the people back in Wisconsin where he was, do you think there was love here? There's the same amount of love with all those people back there. They just came forward, they took care of everything over there. They established a scholarship in his name, an ongoing scholarship that they're going to fund people every single year from now on out. They loved him so much. People donated money. They donated time. They did everything. They're going to have a big event in the end of October or the first couple of days of November, and they're going to do a memorial for him. And we're going to go back for that. But I just want you to know the same love, the same things that were said here were said by them. Melanie Jane was the person that actually found him in his room, and she said, you know, Billy always told me, you know, people say that I'm the sweetest guy with the biggest heart, and now I have an enlarged heart and diabetes. How does that happen? Well, the other thing that was a wonderful thing was going through Facebook and looking at all the pictures, looking at all the comments from everyone. It was just amazing. One person, and maybe been somebody here, said that he had a golden heart and golden ears. And I thought, wow, that says a lot. So I'm going to share something else I found on Facebook. This was from a friend of his back in Wisconsin. Her name was Tani Perkovich, and she wrote this on her Facebook. Everyone who knew him knew he was the very best. Even doctors said he had the biggest heart inside his chest. He was extremely talented, but also loving, sweet, and kind. He was always there for others, which can be so hard to find. He could thaw out the coldest heart with every word he spoke. He gave encouragement, a compliment, and always a bad joke. You couldn't be near Billy without a smile on your face. You'll be sorely missed, dear friend. You were the very soul of this whole place. Thank you, Tony. And finally, I'm going to close with, when they cleaned out this room back there at the Holiday Music Motel, they found in his belongings, in his little treasured belongings, it was the announcement for my niece, Kaden, who just graduated from high school last May. It was her announcement, and on the back, she had selected one of her favorite sayings, one of her quotes for her graduation. And they found it, and they thought it just applied so beautifully to Billy. And it is from Dr. Zeus. And it says, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened." And that was good. Thank you all very much. I'm going to let Danny say a word or two.
Thanks everybody for coming. I had a couple of stories, and one of them was I was 13 and Billy had me meet. It was Billy Rancher was opening for Peter Tosh, and I met him at the back door. Steve dropped me off. And I was scared to death, and there was all these guys with dreadlocks, and I smoking big old J's, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I saw Billy across the way, and so I ran back to the stage and got to him, and he put me in the front row with Karen, Billy's girlfriend, or Billy Rancher's girlfriend, and Billy Flax's girlfriend, which I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, but she was amazing. And I was in the front row, and they came out and they had big doobies that they had taken from their Cheech and Chong albums, and they had rolled them up, and I caught one. So I got to bring that home and show it to Mom and Dad. They were real proud. And as the concert progressed, Peter Tosh came on, and there was so much pot smoke that I got violently ill. And so Billy missed the party of his life. He had to take me home, and here was Billy Rancher. They were drinking champagne and partying down, and here he was with me at his house. But that was Billy. So thank you, Billy. And then the other story is Billy, Bruce Springsteen was playing in Seattle, and they had been sold out for months. And he told me, he said, "Danny, if you can get me right up there, I can get you in." And I said, okay. And so I asked my brother Steve, I said, "Do you want to go with us?" And he said, I don't think so. And I was like, okay, well, it's a drive up there. So took Billy up there. I dropped him off in the back of the place about 4 hours before the concert started. And lo and behold, tickets to Bruce Springsteen. So, thank you, Billy. It was the best concert of my life. I love you and I miss you.
Big mistake on my part, right?